So, all right, so I seen it was actually my first time watching New Peaks. I didn't get a chance to watch it when it first came out, but I watched it yesterday. I watched it a couple of times, and what I liked about it was it felt like you seemed genuine, right? Like it felt like when you wrote that letter, you didn't write that letter because you wanted to be on TV. There wasn't none of that. Like, it really came from a genuine place. And one of the things that struck me was when you talked about your kids, and you said, your kids came and said, "Dad, you got to do something about this." It's like, well, what I'm gonna do? Like, if you could tell me, like, what was that like you spoke a little bit about that conversation, but like take me to that day. Like,
in fact, my son was over. He was in town from Houston on Sunday, and I told him that I was meeting you, and he Googles you, and he goes, "That's awesome, Dad. I'm so excited that this is happening." And I said, "Well, it's really because of you and Emily, my daughter, that could convince me." Like I said in the talk, they were over Father's Day, and I have two other older kids, and these two kept saying, "Dad, you need to do something." But it's like, what do you do? I'm just one person, like an old white man, like I say. It's like, what do you do? And they kept pressing me, and then they called me over the weekend, and my son called me on the weekend, and I said, well, maybe I should do something. I don't know what to do. And so I ended up writing that letter.
Right.
And I did talk to two people in my company, which is a lady that's been with me for 30-something years. She's like my counselor, therapist, advisor. She's a black lady who's the vice president of marketing for our company, who's like my dear friend. And I asked her what she thought. And actually, she told me about a story about her daughter, who I knew when she was born, who got run out of City Park the week before by a white man, cursing at her, telling her, all the words you shouldn't use. And I said, and I know that I've known this little girl since she was born.
Right.
And then we have a young black man who is from New Orleans East, and he started with us about a year ago, and he's always asked me a lot of questions about my life. And I called him up and I said, "Blaze, it's my turn to ask you questions, about your life."
Right.
So, and I asked him what he thought. He says, "Go for it. I think that's great, So that's how it went.
That's dope. So, like, when you talked about, because when I seen your story, you was like, I grew up in those times, segregation and stuff like that. Tell me, like, what's different? Like, we know it's not like Jim Crow laws are like not in place, but it looks different. It evolved. Like, from your perspective, like, do you see, policies and stuff like that? Stuff like, because you've seen it firsthand, you've seen it like at a stage where it was real raw. Like, it was out there, like, colored, white.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But now it's evolved. Like, just tell me, like, do you see like any change? Do you feel like we going in a better place, or you feel like it's just,
Well, I guess this whole time my perspective has changed a bit because, I guess me, like a lot of other older white people who grew up in there, say, "Oh yeah, things have changed." It's we have the civil rights, and we don't have those Jim Crow laws, and there aren't the colored and the white water fountains anymore like there was, or the seats like there was when I was growing up. But so we thought that there was change, but then I guess I wasn't aware,
right?
That because I never, you never think about it from someone else's perspective.
Right.
You think about it from your own lens, and that's kind of my point. Is like none of us can put ourselves in another person's shoes, and so it's like I don't know what it was like for you to grow up,
right?
And so I think things have changed, but they haven't changed enough. And I guess the question is, how are they going to change, and when are they going to change? I guess the other question I would ask you, kind of flipping it around, is what did your parents tell you about their experiences growing up, and what message do they give you as a young black man?
To be honest with you, I was raised by my mom. My mom she was a single parent, and so at the time she was raising two boys and a girl, right? And she'd sit us down. I grew up in the St. Bernard project. She'd sit us down on the sofa, and she'd just flat out tell us. She'd give us these speeches. For whatever reason, she'd just come out and just give us speeches and tell us that she's not promised to be here, right? So she would tell us like, listen, this world, this society we live in, it's not for you, right? You already got 2 strikes against you already. So you got to take that and you got to figure out what you want to do with it. Now you can go out there and you can be a rebel, you can fight, or you can conform. Like it's simple. It's your choice. It's real black and white like that. You go out, you want to stand for something, you know what comes with that. You know the consequences that come with that. Or you go out and you maintain the status quo. And if you you could do that. So like, she was real like honest with us. And that's the thing that I learned from an early age was that sugarcoating things it don't work. Like I like the world through my eyes, what I was getting back from society, it showed me where I stood at in this society. So her talks was always talks of just you need to make a decision, and you need to understand where you live and what country you live in, and you need to be ready for what comes with that. So we was told that at an early age, right? Like so we had to figure it out.
Good for her that she gave her that talk.
Yeah, I'm happy she did. And so I remember like we was talking about schools, right? I did research on you. You say you went to Jesuit. I went to a non-functioning charter school. I don't want to say the name. The school was so whack. But just seeing buildings like your building, because I was in trailers for 4 years, right? So I don't know what it's like to be in a big building. I didn't have no school spirit. Like we had police officers all in our schools. We only had one counselor. We had like over 200 kids. So just imagine like walking into a school building and you just full of trauma, pain and stuff, and you getting patted down every day, and to the point where you just normalize, you just internalize like, look, it is what it is. I'm with these people who are saying that I am. And, you just kind of start to act like that. But I see schools like Jesuit, and I not to say Jesuit don't have issues, but I see a well-resourced school, and I always ask myself, well, why can't I go to a school like that? Why? What's prohibiting me from getting that type of education? Do you see getting education from Jesuit? Do you feel like it's like barriers in place to stop like black kids from receiving like the same education that a white kid could receive, or like what's your perspective on that? Like how you feel about that?
I mean, I do think that my perspective now on that is I do think that black kids have extra barriers that white kids don't. I mean, it's not to say that they can. Obviously some of them do, but in many ways it's harder. I think for them, and I didn't appreciate those barriers. I mean, maybe I still can't appreciate those barriers, but at least I can understand that there's barriers now that I didn't have. And that's my point. And none of us really can put ourselves in the other person's shoes, and none of us get to choose to what conditions we're born, and therefore it's really hard to judge another person. But I can see that now. I mean, a young black kid, for the most part, not every young black kid, but the more young black kids, and there's young white kids that have barriers too. Mm-hmm. Obviously, young black kids are born to poverty and they're born to abusive parents, just like black kids are. But I think the percentage of barriers is higher for black kids. Yeah.
So what you do when you put you on the spot? Like you got all right, you're an older white dude. Like, you're older white dude. You don't have like
old white dude,
right? Mm-hmm. Right. You're a CEO of a company.
Yes, I am.
All right. And I want to go on a limb and say you have, friends and people who you socialize with.
Yeah.
What are those conversations like? What are those conversations like when you see people like George Floyd get killed, or you see some racial bomb explode? You're around all your friends, right? Y'all having God talk or whatever. You said you like this is something like your perspective changed now. So I mean you had a different one back then. What's it like in your inner circle? What are we talking about?
You are putting me on a spot. Because it as a CEO of a company, it presents a different challenge for me, because obviously, like in anything, there are friends of mine, longtime friends of mine, good friends of mine, and also people in my company don't share the views I share.
Right.
You know, and that's why when I wrote that letter, it was not written as the CEO of the company, it was written from me. And, you know, there's people in the company that have total different beliefs about social inequality or racial justice. And, you know, some of them said, do you think all white people are racist? I mean, one of them asked me that. And I said, no, I didn't say that all white people were racist. You know, that's not the point. I think the majority of white people are not overtly racist. I just think that they're unaware, or they're certainly not anti-racist. You know, but I've had some close friends, and I have some coworkers that probably, you know, would take exception to what I said, but you know, I didn't. That's okay.
And I think that's the part. Because to be honest with you, it's that, like I said, it felt genuine when I watched the video, and I think just the type of person I am, if it didn't feel genuine, I wouldn't be able to sit down right now. You know, I feel like it's just some stage stuff, and I want to act, but this ain't time for, you know, this ain't no acting class right now. This is real. So I think that, again, that's what gravitated me towards you, because you was honest about that. Like, nah, I feel like this now. I didn't always feel like this, but I feel like this right now. And you put that pen to the paper, and you quoted Dr. King. You had a quote I seen when you quoted Dr. King, and it made me think about Malcolm X. I don't know if you're familiar with Malcolm X, and he said, I remember I read his autobiography, and he was like, a white person walked up to him and said, "I'm not prejudiced like my people. What can I do? Like, what can I do?" Or whatever. It was like nothing, and it's like he regretted that. And he said if he ever met that lady again, he would tell her, "You could do something. It starts with your family." That's where it's born. That's where racism. That's where it starts. It starts in the family. You know, it's passed down, right? And to see that your kids came to you and was able, first of all, was comfortable enough to even come engage you in a conversation like that, it speaks volumes, right? Like, cause I know if my mom is like, she's like adamantly against something, I won't feel super comfortable coming to her talking about certain things, right? So just the fact that your kids was able to do that, you know, spoke volumes. So I'm gonna let you, if you got questions, I'm gonna let you, you know, whatever you got for me, I'm gonna let you ask me, because I'm grilling you right now, so I'm gonna give you a chance to, you know, see what you got.
So, what is your overall impression of white people in general?
To be honest with you, so this is my experiences as a child with white people. White people used to come into the projects because they used to have a church across the street, and they used to come, and it used to be like this conversion thing. They used to come in, they wanted us to pray to Jesus. So all the black kids would come to this white camp, get snacks, pray to Jesus, and then they leave, right? My first impression on white people, it's like they almost came in as some type of savior at certain points. Like, you seen white people, you knew they was coming with some snacks or something, smiling, happy, you know, like, it's the only time you really interact with them when you come from where I come from. As I grew up and I got older, my high school told me, in order for me to succeed in society, I had to be more like you. I had to mimic you. That's how I succeed, right? So my experiences with white people were limited, but I was being programmed to be just like you, because being me wasn't good enough. That's what I was being told. I had to be you, respectability politics. Be like Marty. Like, you didn't say your name, but pretty much what they was telling us. Like, you need to act white if you want to, you know, make it in America. So when I first started to understand racism in this country, and the laws and policies, and Googling things like the GI Bill and stuff like that after World War I, and just seeing like just the act of like just the constant disrespect, I sum it up, to my race of people by another race of people. It was anger at first. It's rage. Like, I need nothing to do with them. I won't see them. If I see a white person with a Confederate flag, I'm not politically correct. I might do something to them. I mean, this is how I felt at first, right? Well, I mean, let me be honest. If a white person came around me with a Confederate flag, we'll have a conversation. I'm gonna say that, right? But it changed over time because I gained allies in the social justice movement, right? So I was honored. I was able to be a part of a movement to get kids more resources, to get kids the help they need. When we talk about, like, when you hear people say defund the police, we talking about divesting from punitive practices and putting it into the community. That's all we saying. Like, stuff that we asking for, like things you would want to give your children are what we asking for. Like, kids are not born bad. They live in conditions, they make decisions, and they need those resources, right, to change. Mm-hmm. So I met a lot of powerful white allies, right? Like, my favorite, I tell people, I got like a top 5 list of white people I love. And Jane Elliott, the first one, I don't know if you're familiar with her, but she got this experiment called the brown eye, blue eye experiment. That if you've never seen it, I encourage you to go watch it, right? And so there are people out there who don't look like me, but who take, like, my liberation just as serious as another black person, right? And so when I finally, like, seen that, it did something to me, So my view of white people overall did change, because, like you said, it's not all white people. We know this already. I don't say that. I got, white people who stand next to me on the front line. It's not all white people, but it's a group of white people who are in power. It's narratives that get pushed continuously by groups of white people that continue that further pushes policies that harms my community. You know what I'm saying? But my view did change over time with doing the work that I do. So, yeah, got allies.
What's going to cause change?
Us. And it's simple. It's doing exactly what you did, right? Both of us was on the talk, right? From 2 different worlds though. Like, you was from, like, you coming from where you come from, and I'm coming from where I'm coming from. 2 totally different perspectives. We sitting right here next to each other. Now, because of who you are and what you were born and your gender and you being a white male in America, you have a certain status, right? Certain, like, it's power that comes with that. And I think when we sit across from each other and we understand each other's perspective, within that alliance, we can make change. But only if we choose to understand each other. If you don't write me off as some black kid who complaining about racism don't exist, you're just complaining. You want a handout. That's the stuff I hear when I watch.
I hear that too.
Right. So
I hear the same thing.
You just want handouts. You just want the government to take care of you. And by all means, like, food stamps don't take care of nobody. Black people flip food stamps to pay the rent. It's not enough. Like, the narratives is crazy, but if you don't live through the stuff, you don't know. So, like, it's what we doing right now. Like, that's how we get the change we need. Standing next to each other, right? Understanding that I need my liberation the same way you have yours. I think that's how we do it. So if we don't do that, it's gonna be another civil war. I'm scared, man. I'm telling you, people getting upset, man. People getting angry, bro.
I again, in my lifetime, and maybe it needed to come to this, I don't know, but the anger and the animosity, and it's not just on racial issues, it's on political issues. It's on wearing a mask or not wearing a mask. It's on, and people are getting more and more polarized and more, extreme in their views and I think a lot of it is because of social media. They, people live in their echo chambers and they don't bother to listen. They talk and they listen to the people that just reinforce their beliefs.
Exactly.
And don't do research and think in sound bites because that's all they have time for, social media. So, and I worry about that with the kids because growing up now, and I've talked to the superintendent of the school system over in St. Tammany Parish about the challenge with social media and the social media bullying with the kids and because I do worry about that. I think while social media can certainly be a benefit in terms of communication, it can also be a negative.
Okay.
And I think that the anger level has gotten to be worse than I've ever seen. But like I said, maybe it needed to come to this, come to a head to create some change because I do think that the younger generation, people your age, are more aware of the issues, the social issues. And like I said in my talk, like when I was in my 20s, I was not, it was not on my radar screen.
Right.
Just because I didn't live it, I didn't see it.
Right.
I mean, I saw what I saw, but it wasn't what I thought about.
Right. I mean, it kind of go back, like, I think the worst thing not the worst thing, but one of the things I used to do, and it kind of goes to what you were saying about, like, people just living in the echo chambers, right? Politics. I used to say, I'm a Democrat. This is because I heard, that's what I heard around me, right? But then I started doing my research, and I'm like, this political stuff is a doozy, right? And I've come to realize I'm more of an issue voter, like independent, right? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Me too.
But I had to learn. But you have to, man. It's like you have to stand your ground, and you have to stand for something. Or man, we just gonna keep going in circles, man. If you told me that I would be, like, in my future, be sitting across from somebody like you, I'm like, you out your mind. Like, we're not doing that. It's not happening. We're not doing that, Marty.
Well, if somebody had told me that I'd be sitting across from you in whiskey and sticks on a Tuesday morning at 11 o'clock,
right,
I would have said, what are you smoking?
That's what I'm saying. What we doing?
Uh-huh. But it's a great Tuesday morning.
Right, and we here.
Uh-huh.
And we doing it, man.